republic for one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Vince Haley. He's
Here.
online.
Here.
Perfect. Randall Kempton.
Here.
Sally Smith. Aaron Richards. Jim Lawrence.
Here.
Bruce Casper.
Here.
McKay Francis. Vanessa Johnson. Brian Thackeray. Vern Muir.
Here.
Dan Hanna.
All right, we need a motion to approve the minutes for February 6th.
I move that we approve the minutes for February 6th, 2025.
Okay, thank you. Moved. Any second on that?
Second.
Okay, seconded. Any discussion of that, of the minutes? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed? Okay. And abstention, good by McKay, and that's good. All right, minutes then stand approved. And we will, I think now move on to our public hearing tonight. Is that correct? All right. Public hearing tonight is for a rezone from MDR1 to MDR2 of Yellowstone Heights, located at approximately 238 and 243 Ella Lane. And I think we will begin with the staff report. Is that?
I just did.
You're okay?
Okay.
We're okay.
Okay. Great.
You. The property here, we recently, within the last couple of years, probably 2-3 years ago, rezoned this to MDR1. The plans that were developed by the company was originally to put 48 units on it, the 2 12-plexes on this side and 2 12-plexes on the other side. When they went to MDR1, it didn't allow them to go to that level. So they have come in at this point and are requesting to change this to MDR2 just so they can put the 2 12-plexes on that north part of this property. And this gives them enough room to meet that density and stay within the code requirements. So staff has reviewed it. We feel this fits within the area, fits within what we originally thought was going to happen in this area. And so we're recommending to P&Z to recommend this to City Council for approval.
Okay, thank you. Well, we want to update our role to.
Vanessa. Here.
All right, thank you. All right. Any questions for staff?
Yeah, I just have a question. It looks like this property was, it looks like it was pre-planned or brought as a,
It's part of a plat.
so these buildings have already been platted.
These have already been platted. They are condos. They will have to come in with a modified plat after the zone change has been approved, if it's approved.
And so the zoning at the time was appropriate. But the changes that were made to zoning have caused it to now fall out of.
No, they originally didn't fit. They were hoping to do that and they decided, let's move ahead forward because they wanted to get these 2 being built and actively rented. And then they were going to come back later and ask for this to meet that standard.
At the present time, there's 2 structures that are completed on the property.
Correct. The 2 on the south side. These 2 right here are currently being rented at this point. They're fully complete. So these up here are just a footprint of the platting that we approved originally for this project. No construction has started on that at all.
Okay.
And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the footprint will stay the same. You'll just take this 6-plex and expand it to a 12-plex. So they'll actually sit in the same spot. Still has to be amended. They'll amend the plat. But that's the plan of what they want to do.
The applicant present and wants to make any
He said he
comments?
was here to answer questions if you would
Okay.
like. Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's update the roll, please.
Brian Thackeray,
All right, great.
Okay, Brian, this is a property that is currently zoned MDR1. The applicant has requested an upgrade to an MDR2 so that they would be in a position to put two 12-plexes on this side rather than a 12-plex and a 6-plex in that position. So to meet the ability to put that on there, they need to go up to that higher density to be able to meet that. Yes, the plat is currently a condominium plat for all of these buildings. So we can make the zone change today or through the process if it's approved. And the applicant will have to come back in with an amended plat to adjust for those additional 6.
Yeah.
So this is just one step in the process.
Any further questions for staff? Okay. All right, we will then open the public hearing and hear testimony from those first who are for, then those who are neutral, finally those who are against the proposal, and then allow the applicant time for rebuttal if needed. So first we'll hear from anyone who is for this proposal. Seeing none, anyone who is neutral to the proposal? And seeing none, anyone who is against the proposal? Is there any written input on this?
no.
Okay. All right. Seeing none, then we'll close the public hearing and staff can now deliberate. Sorry, it's not staff. Commission, sorry, commissioners. Hey, this is my first time. Commissioners' comments. I should probably first ask if there's anybody on the commission who needs to recuse themselves because of a conflict of interest. Okay, none. All right.
Can I chime in?
Yes, please. Yes.
You know, I feel like that area has a lot of growth with 3-story home or complexes. I don't see any reason to deny from MDR1 to MDR2. I think it fits in that area, especially with the growth that it's had. You've got commercial across the street, you've got a busy North Yellowstone Highway there. I think it fits that area very easily.
Yeah, thank you. Jim, anything from you?
I agree completely with Vince.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would just say there's been a lot of conversation about this part of town over the last year, 2 years. And it started out as not as much a residential idea as far as our forward-looking plan. And it seems like once Thompson Farms and some of these others have gone in and now in preparation for the group that took over the drive-in area and others, that this fits well with the higher density of this area, and I don't see any reasons why it would conflict with
Okay.
anything.
Any further discussion?
I'll motion when you guys are ready.
All right. We're ready for motion at any time then.
I would motion that we recommend to City Council the zone change from MDR1 to MDR2 on the proposed property because of the surroundings of commercial and higher density residential. I think it fits with that zone area. I think it fits with the comp plan area.
Okay,
I'll second that.
okay, seconded first by Vanessa. Any discussion of that motion? Okay, all in favor of this motion then?
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And we will recommend to City Council this zone change from MDR1 to MDR2. All right. Having finished that, then there is nothing else on the agenda tonight. There is a no meeting on March 20th, as I see there, but there is a commissioner training that I have listed here as that's tonight. So no other items of public hearing, but there is a commissioner training that we appear to be getting to do right now. So great, Alan, we'll turn the time over to you. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you for your participation.
This is another one of those videos that was put together by AIC, I think the League of Cities, and then APA Idaho to help train commissions and everything on how different aspects of your job affect what you do and what's going on. The one I chose this time is more on zoning, where your authority comes from, what it's supposed to do, how it's supposed to be handled, and gives you guys a better understanding. And most of you understand really well, but it's just for those that have been through something similar, it again gives you that opportunity to learn it. But for those that haven't seen it, it gives you a chance to understand it a little better. Afterwards, we can have some questions, but we'll watch it first.
Colburn Spencer. I'm the director of long-range planning and capital projects for the city of Eagle. I've worked in planning and zoning for the last 30 years, including doing zoning and map revision for the city. Today, we'll be talking about zoning districts, zoning maps, and uses. Zoning is an exercise of the police power to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the community. Police power is the authority granted to local governments under the Idaho State Constitution. It is the broadest power granted to local government. This is the same authority that provides for police and fire protection. At the local level, acted through the ordinances and become part of the city or the county code. Without police power, there would be no traffic control, health codes, building codes, parking restrictions, or zoning. Under Idaho code, every city and county has a zoning ordinance that consists of two parts: an official zoning map and text, and is usually adopted into the jurisdiction code. The zoning ordinance divides the local jurisdiction into districts or zones. For each district or zone, the zoning ordinance regulates the type of land uses allowed, the intensity or density of those land uses, including development, height, bulk, completeness of structure, amount and design of parking, and a number of other aspects related to land use and development. Adopted zoning ordinance is the law and instructions how the city or county will develop. The official zoning map is the graphic of the zoning district. Zoning map illustrates how the city or county is divided into numerous zones. Boundaries of these districts generally follow property lines and or the center lines of streets. The zoning ordinance text will typically include 6 sections. Section 1 is the description of each zoning district, including purpose of the district, allowed uses within the district, and dimensional and development standards. Section 2, the development standards for all districts. Section 3 is the definition of nonconformities, including uses, structures, and property, and how such nonconformities will be regulated. Section 4 is how variances from the zoning code will be evaluated. Section 5 is the criteria and procedures for how development will be reviewed and approved. And finally, Section 6 is the definition. This video focuses on the first part. The text of the zoning code defines the zoning district within broad categories of residential, commercial, industrial, open space and agriculture, public uses, and undesignated area. Within each of these broad categories, there are often multiple zoning districts that range from low to high density or inclusion. For instance, residential zones frequently include a low density district for single family detached housing in suburban small lots. In medium density districts for attached housing such as duplexes, triplexes, and townhomes. And a high density district for multi-level attached housing or apartments. Similarly, commercial zoning districts may include neighborhood commercial districts for convenience stores and personal services close to residential areas. Community business, large supermarkets and stores, and central business districts for downtown shopping areas. Every community is unique and will have different zones to reflect its community characteristics. This slide is an example of comparing the zoning districts of Valley to Garden City, which shows the uniquenesses of each community. The zoning ordinance often includes other types of zoning districts, including overlay zones and flooding zones. Overlay zones are commonly created for the purpose of preventing flood damage, preserving historic areas, or requiring design review. Overlay zones may reduce the number of uses permitted. For example, in historic residential overlay, home occupations and daycares may be prohibited uses. Other examples include establishing additional or more restrictive zoning standards than the underlying zone. For example, a floodplain overlay may prohibit development within the 100-year floodline. These overlay zones are also depicted on the zoning map. Zoning districts are adopted as development occurs for unique circumstances and are used in unit development or mixed-use development. Floating zones typically are not mapped. Some examples of floating districts include transit-oriented development, neighborhood centers, and streets or highway corridors. For each zoning district, the code includes a purpose statement that is distinct from other districts. The purpose statement is frequently underrated, but should be the first priority for any zoning. The statement should be a clear and simple statement of the intent of the district, which flows from the comprehensive plan and future land use. It should describe the intended development pattern, density or intensity, and general character of the allowed uses. The purpose statement is the foundation for determining allowed uses in the zoning district. It can be helpful in determining if a use should be allowed or not in the district when it is not listed in the zoning code. This slide is an example of a purpose statement that follows these guidelines. In each zoning district, specific land uses are either permitted, prohibited, or conditionally permitted. Permitted means use is allowed by right, as long as the use meets the zoning ordinance standards. No other approval is required. Frequently, local governments have an administrative process to review as part of a building permit. Prohibited means the use is not allowed. The only option is to request a rezone of the map or a text amendment to the ordinance to allow the use. Or finally, conditionally permitted. A conditional or special use is a use that may be allowed in the district under certain circumstances. Or condition. It is typically not the prevailing use allowed in the district and or the nature of the use may have impact on the surrounding property. If a use is conditionally permitted, it must be approved by the local government following a public notice and hearing process. For example, daycare may be a conditional use in a residential zone because local officials want to ensure that the additional traffic and other impacts must track on the character of the neighborhood. Conditional use is granted subject to the conditions allowed by the ordinance. The ability of local subdivisions, including school districts, to provide services to the proposed use, and the goals of the contract. Requirements requirements for approval of conditional use permits may include minimizing adverse impacts on other development, controlling the sequencing and timing of development, controlling the duration of development, assuring development is maintained properly, designating the exact location and nature of development, requiring the provision of on-site or off-site public facilities or services, imposing more restrictive standards than generally required, and requiring mitigation of the impact on service delivery by local governments, including school districts. Decision to grant special use permit is dependent upon the proposed use and the unique characteristics of the site. Special use permits are not a binding precedent on the local government. Permits cannot be transferred to other properties under the same ownership. However, once a permit is granted, it will continue as the property passes from owner to owner with the same uses continuing. The older zoning code, there's many conditional uses because the potential impact of the use are unknown at the time the code was adopted. As a result, best practices then were meant to adding standards that mitigate impacts of specific uses. In this way, more uses can be permitted or allowed by right and reduce the need for conditional use. For example, if the commission is regularly approving the same condition, the same conditional use that comes before them, adding those conditions as standards to the code will simplify the process.
Frequently, especially smaller communities, because of lack of resources, lack of staff, often, exchange ideas and ordinances and standards with other communities. And I recall talking to a community that had a similar situation, only it was dealing with setbacks. The community that had mostly older homes. They weren't experiencing a lot of growth, and their setback, their front yard setback was such that those older homes had stairways and porches that were actually in the the setback area. And so their planning commission for a couple of years had almost all of their hearings had been dealing with variances to that setback request. They granted every one of them because they didn't want somebody to fall through their porch. And the answer was, well, maybe we don't need that setback in these areas because they had a 90-foot right of way. Yeah. So they were still a long ways from the street.
Matrix provides a simple way to show how uses are classified in each zone. Each use listed in the chart should have a definition in the definition section of the code. The chart can also be used to reference the other code requirements that might apply to specific use. How land uses are defined, classified, and assigned to different zoning districts is an important aspect of the zoning code. Classification of use should be distinguished between use and district and the regulations that apply to each use. Classification system needs to be systematic and identified as defined. There are some existing classification systems that can be used as the basis for defining and classifying uses, including the North American Industrial Classification System, International Traffic Engineers Manual, for generation, and the American Planning Association's land-based classification system. Whatever way the classification system is developed, it should use the broadest land use categories possible. In the past, those included every conceivable use in their land use basis. This is impossible in a changing world. For example, today, many drugstores contain food items, and many grocery stores include a pharmacy. And uses that were important 10 years ago may not exist today, like video stores. In classifying uses, the focus should be on the impact of the use, not the oddities of the use that have no effect on zoning. Uses with the same impact should be consolidated into a broader category. For example, barbershops and hair and nail salons have similar impacts in terms of parking and activities, and can be organized together into a category called personal services. Given the changing nature of retail, many codes are moving towards classifying retail and other uses by size, rather than what is sold, as was depicted in the earlier slide. Uses that may occur in all zoning are also in the zoning code. These include temporary uses, such as fireworks or Christmas tree stands. Also identified are accessory uses that may be allowed in association with a principal use that is allowed in the district. An example of that one is in residence. Idaho law refers to special uses, which is the terminology used by many communities. Special uses are synonymous with conditional uses. This slide provides a short definition of all these types of uses. This completes the review of the purpose of zoning maps, districts, and uses. Other videos in this series cover the other sections included in the zoning code.
So perfectly clear, easily understood, no questions, right?
Goes by a little bit fast.
It does. It does. Any questions on any of that that we're doing?
So our,
different?
so our zone overlays in Rexburg include, there's a floodplain overlay.
Yep.
What other overlays do we have, just by way of
Your
example?
pedestrian emphasis district is one of the
Okay,
overlays.
okay.
PUDs is an overlay, but it's a floating. Because that's one where they come in wherever they're at and come to you and say, we want to put a PUD right here.
Mhm. So that's an idea, or that's an example of a floating
A
zone.
floating,
Okay,
a floating overlay is basically.
floating overlay.
Because it's not a zone, it's almost a special use,
Mm-hmm.
but it's one we're very precise in what they have to do to be able to meet those requirements in doing that. But I think the PED and floodplain are the only ones we have that are specific overlays. We used to have one, redevelopment in.
Oh, yes,
And we.
urban
removed that
redevelopment, yeah,
one
okay.
Because it just simply was very restrictive. We weren't getting a lot of use out of it. And we found that a lot of the stuff that was able to go in there was happening anyways.
And we don't have a historic district. We're not old enough to have a
We
historic district.
kind of do, and that's our downtown, which is our form-based code, which is a specific zoning classification just for the 12 blocks in the downtown area. So that is I would consider our special district, our Old Town district,
Mhm.
because it does take that into account.
That's everything down Main Street.
Main Street to Second North to
Mhm.
Second South to Second East to Second West.
It allows for.
That's the one.
But is that is that an overlay, or is that
That's a zone.
so
those are
those are
zones.
zones, yeah. I wouldn't call them an overlay
It's a
necessarily.
complete different code.
Mhm.
There's 12 blocks included in that. And then there's 4
Mhm.
classifications within it. Main Street, 4, City Center, Transact, and then residential. Do this. Scroll out a little bit and put the zoning on. There's that downtown district, city
Mhm.
center.
Mhm.
The purple is city center, the red is core, the orange tan, whatever that is Main Street, and then up here in this corner is the residential. But it just takes in those 12 blocks.
And that's all under the new form-based code.
All under the new form base, correct. Most of it in the past, before we put form base in place, was city business district.
Is that new building there being built by the post office? Is that under the form-based code? That's
Base code.
that the first building that we've had that's using that new code
It
that I'm
is.
aware of.
It is the first one.
Mhm.
Yep, and there are others being proposed because we have that group that is coming in to do the one around Beehive and the
Mm.
Porter parking lot, and then next to the theaters in there. So that's a 3-part project
Hmm.
looking at building out, and they're hoping to get started on the first one this year.
Cool.
That's the goal. They're in the design phase right now.
It'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, it will. So
Mhm.
that one's happening. We have a few of them. We've had 2 or 3 proposed and started looking at, and then they never did pan out, or they just decided at this point that they weren't ready to do that. I can't pull up floodplain on this one because you have to get into the staff review. The floodplain is not open to the public because it's not exact. The only thing that FEMA gives us is a firm mat. It's actually a paper map. They do not have a digital one. And so our GIS department come in and put an estimation in for when we're sitting down with people saying, hey, this isn't exact, but this gives you a representation. You need to check and make sure whether yours fits in it or not. There's a possibility that you can come in if you have the right situation and get that removed from the floodplain by doing surveys and everything to prove that you're above that level. We've had a few of those done in the last few years. So it is an option. Floodplain's a difficult one because the insurance really increases immensely if you're in that floodplain.
Sure.
Yeah.
Recently, we went through a process a couple of years ago or last year of simplifying all of the use list. You went through a long process of staff, I think, and I think that's what she was kind of referring to, that keeping the standards broad. It seems to me that whole process was part of that, sort of condensing uses and eliminating old uses.
It was because we had some of those things that, as she stated before, we don't have video stores anymore.
Mhm.
So it's not something. You have the combination of stores, pharmacies with grocery stores, with hardware stores. I mean, you look at Walmart, they've got just about everything that most stores have at that point
Mhm.
until you get some really specialized. So you had to open up that avenue and make it a little bit easier and broader to be able to say this fits.
Are we looking at another round of those in the near future? Simplifying
Not
uses?
not the permitted uses. Your next round is going to be landscaping, daycares, and parking. Those are the 3 big ones we're working on now.
Revising.
Yep. We've got some, we're pretty well through landscaping and daycare. Our strategics looked at it and everything else. Before we bring it to you formally, we're going to have a work meeting and have you guys go through it with us to see if you have some changes or some requests.
The phrase that she used there that caught my ear was the idea of not just similarity of like services like hair salons and barbershops, for example, but the idea of what kind of impact those similar kind of activities would have on the local, area. That's not necessarily even that they're the same kind of thing, but do they have the same kind of impact?
Right. And we looked at that when we went through the permissible uses and looked at those types of things. And that's why you separate into different zones, because your commercial creates a situation where you don't want that really close to certain residential. You don't want a Walmart right in the middle of a
Right. And
subdivision. So those are what help integrate that. Once in a while, though, you run into something like she mentioned, the daycare. Yeah, it's nice to have that in residential, but how big of a daycare? How's that going to impact? Do you have traffic flow that's comfortable without creating a dangerous situation for either the children in the daycare or people in the neighborhood? And noise ordinances. Some things you do not want them in those areas simply because it creates a nuisance that would affect the residents in their homes. And you try to control that. And it's nice to get a lot of your commercial into certain areas because they're similar. You want people that are
Right.
shopping to go
Yeah.
to the same spot.
Well, since COVID hit, and I picked up on a statement about businesses in residential areas in the home. There's a lot of that now. How's that handled with zoning?
We have what is called a home business or a home occupation that's allowed in the code. And if it's not too intrusive on the neighborhood, then they can be allowed. They have to register with the city and basically say, here's what we're doing. Some of them actually require a conditional use permit. We had one here
Let's see recently.
in the last 6 months
Mhm.
out in Willowbrook,
Mhm.
where a home business, which is a little bit higher, you're going to have other employees, you're going to have electric motors running or things like that that could create a nuisance.
Traffic bringing
Traffic.
supplies in and out.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so when that happens, then we bring it in front of P&Z and City Council to see, do you think this is too intrusive for the neighborhood and should we allow it?
But actually, When they have a business in the home, it should be registered though, right?
Correct.
With the city.
Yeah. Now, if you're an accountant or something like that, and you don't have clients, or you're an engineer and you're just drawing on your own computer and you don't have people coming to visit you, we don't register that. It's if you're doing something that is going to have customers coming to you, or it's going to have some kind of activity that's going to affect the neighborhood, then that's the ones we need to register. Because there's a lot of people out there in the last few years, because of COVID, are just working from home. And that's a difference than actually having a business in your home. Counselors, we have some counselors that work from their home, and they have to register as a business because they have people coming and going.
Mm.
People that teach piano or voice lessons and things like that. We usually don't make them get one, but if it's something that they're all of a sudden they have a very high volume of people coming, we may make them come in and do that.
Yeah, I teach voice lessons, but I've got like 2 or 3 neighborhood kids who walk to my house. I mean, it's
It's not like
there's not, I don't have a, one evening a week, and
Yeah.
it's not enough to bother.
We'll put that on the record.
That's the type of one, we don't regulate everybody that teaches piano lessons either.
Right.
And that stuff. It's interesting how many times we run into stuff that I have to send out the code enforcement because they're doing stuff that is causing trouble for the neighbors. Too much traffic, parking in the street, blocking driveways, noise after hours, stuff like that. And you're going, okay, number one, you need to register. Number two, this one's not allowed in what you're trying to do, especially if they start bringing in large trucks. That can be a problem going through a neighborhood. Yeah. So that being able to pick those zones, designate them, and get the permitted uses and all the things that are going on within that, it's a real challenge to get a balance. So the whole goal behind this is keep your rights as much as I can in your hands with as minimal restriction from government as possible. But the idea is I need to try to protect you, but I also need to try to protect the person that wants to do something with his property. And that's where that balance comes in, and it becomes a little bit difficult because sometimes it's a fine line between who's getting offended the worst or who's getting imposed upon the worst. And that's where you guys get to come in and make those type of decisions and say, I think this is a little overreach. We're going to turn this down because we don't think it fits in this area.
Yeah, well, that's where you can't regulate everything, and so that's why the quasi judicial quote process that we do is actual human beings making judgments.
Correct.
And common sense, hopefully, judgments about things that the law just can't cover everything. Yeah.
And the real challenge you guys face is, in some point, you got to take your hat off and put it away and say, I'm representing the whole city, not just my interests. Because you have to overlook, and that's why the comprehensive plan is a guiding document. And it's one of those things that says, this is what we believe should happen. Not that we can't change that if we see a change in the way the city's going, but then that zoning comes in, and that's the one that locks it in. And you have to be able to say, what's the better good for the community? And what we're trying to do here may offend 5 or 6 people here, but it benefits thousands in the whole city. And that's the difficult challenge you guys face in your decisions. Because who shows up?
Say sometimes we are skewed by who's in the room.
Yeah.
And it's impacting, but
Yeah.
who's not in the room is also very important.
And I've always felt this way. The ones that are okay with it, they don't show
They
up.
don't come.
I'm fine with it. It's okay with me. But there are people that it impacts and they're going, I don't like this. I don't want it. Those are the ones we hear from every time. And I don't ever want to discount what they say because it is important to listen to them. But then the overall deal is we understand this, but you understand the city's growing. You understand the growth. You understand what's going to happen here. We have to look at that also and find that balance. Any other thoughts?
Anything else?
That's all I've got for you.
Great.
Time out. That what we just saw, could we, for dummies like me that didn't quite understand half of it, can you come in here and see that again?
I'll see if I can get you the link.
What?
I'll see if I can get the link and send it out to you
Okay,
to where then you guys can watch it at your own leisure
Okay.
whenever you want.
please.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what this is designed for, is to train commissioners and city council members on, here's the processes and here's the power. Because she said, this is a police ability. You have the same as the police and the fire to enforce this. And you have the power also, or it gives the city the power to come in there and write citations or basically red tag a situation and say, no, you're done. Or we can bring it in and we can actually condemn property at certain points.
Well, the other thing that caught my ear was the fact that this is an extension of the police power that's, the police department and the fire department use, and its purpose is to protect the overall safety and welfare of this community,
Correct.
balancing property rights and balancing freedom. And that's what the police do as well. I mean, they have to balance that same thing.
And it's interesting to note, the city didn't give you that authority. The state gave the
Yeah.
city the authority. So we're still under guidance of the state, and that's why we have to follow their statutes and not get crossways to them. So that's usually where, whenever we're writing new code, Spencer and them will look at it and go, yeah, we're not violating anything here. It fits within it, because they are the final say for the state in what's going on. So it's fun at times, and other times it's not fun. But we try to find ways to appease everybody we can, give everybody the opportunity. But I appreciate the work you guys do. I know this is not always fun. Some of those meetings can get very intense. But glad you guys,
We haven't had those for a while.
for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been slow, but you may see some in the near future. With what's coming, some of the stuff that's being proposed, some of them will be very well accepted, and some of them, where they go, creates a challenge. Okay,
All right.
thank you, guys.
Thank you. No, there's nothing else. We'll stand adjourned. Always wanted to do that.